It might be a 4th of July where fireworks are going off everywhere. Figuratively and literally, it doesn't matter where you are. But, ladies and gentlemen, we stay focused. We have no distractions, and we continue to grind in prime time on the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the only platform where all music and wrestling matters. And our guest, we haven't seen him here in a minute. In fact, I forgot the last time I saw him. Well, he'll remind me. But he is a man that is a true living legend. When you think about the GBYWN, you think about GWC Intensity, the longest running program of anywhere, any company out there in the GBYWN in the backyard wrestling circuit. This man was front and center. When we think of the likes of Skrilla, oh, a man that was on this platform, this man was certainly here front and center with him. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about what he's been up to, what he thinks about right now, things in the backyard in the underground wrestling circuit, plus who knows whatever else. But since he hasn't been here, and I do have a surprise from him. He kind of knows the surprise, but we'll play along and we'll still go along with the surprise. But since he hasn't been here in a minute, I've got a little bit more of a refined, a longer introduction, because I know our chat will eventually show up here. And since he hasn't been here in a minute, it is time for me to give him that introduction. But in the words of Def Leppard frontman Joe Elliott, ladies and gentlemen, let's get rocked here and start this night off in style on Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station where all music and wrestling matters. So with without further ado, here on the Sports Report, #1 Cable Sports Show. A man that is the definition of a living legend in the backyard wrestling circuit. A man that was front and center for the GWC. His name is simply put, Mr. My friend, how are we doing?
Oh, I just amazed by that intro. That gave me nostalgic flashbacks. But let me explain. Not
All right.
only because I live in Georgia, right?
Nostalgic flashbacks.
So not only do I live in Georgia, so that's home of the Braves. So the Tomahawk Chop.
You're the first one from Georgia I've given the intro since we've done the War Chants the last 4 months. Go figure.
And so that's very common to go to a Braves game and do that. However,
I'm a Mets fan, by the way, and I do the War Chant still. And that's why New York fans want to disown me right now.
I understand. But in my youth, from first to seventh grade when I lived in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and since I was born in Little Rock, um, the school district, it was in Craighead County, which was the Raiders. And we
Okay.
lived on Arkansas State University campus while my parents were going to school. And so their mascot was Indians. So the tomahawk chalk
Oh.
has actually been part of my life, my almost entire life.
Oh,
So
okay, that
that
makes sense.
so when hearing that, that flashes back to high school football games where my sister was a cheerleader and performing while I was running around, being a middle schooler. Um, then going to ASU football games with my father and enjoying those moments and doing it then and then able to go to Braves games and doing it there too. So it's that's been part of my life my entire life, and so hearing that just flashback.
There's a wrestler that comes on here, Torrance Banks. What was one episode? Yeah, it has to be about 4 months ago. It was a Saturday night, and I just went with it. And he was like, do it. And then it was Hillbilly Tilly, who ironically is from Alabama, but is not a Florida State Seminoles fan. He's an Auburn Tigers fan, was like, yeah, do it. And since then, I've been going with it. I did have a rock singer from the band LA Guns who seemed like he was a guest at the intro because I didn't do, he was kind of like, what, let's get to it already, because he was one of those rock stars, full disclosure, supposed to have done it 2 days earlier, but he just, I don't want to say blew it off, but didn't do it. And then we did it, and it was like, usually I get these interviews with these rock bands, and like the band, the management, they've seen the stuff. It's great. They're very like, okay, they tell you 30 minutes, but like, nah, keep going. They like, this guy was like, I could tell it was like before the interview, like, let's go. I want like almost like, so like I only did like 2.5 minutes of the intro. So, usually sometimes D'Angelo LaFlame had an 8-minute one because I don't know. It's D'Angelo LaFlame. He hadn't been here like you in a minute. So it was just like the people were like, yeah, do it. So,
Absolutely.
so yeah, you're the first person actually that is from the state of Georgia that I've done this intro for. So congratulations, I think.
Thank you. They always like being the first in any category. It feels good.
Well, I'm happy to have you because you're here on July 4th, and also shout out to the Florida State Seminoles. So I guess I should ask you, I mean, there is a lot to talk about in different ways. So I guess we'll start off here. For those that are listening and watching here in prime time on the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the platform, you, Mr. Hardcore, and Copper Dragon and Skrilla have most certainly helped build. I mean, Sportswire Radio, what have you been up to since we last spoke?
Oh, I totally forgot it's 4th of July. I thought my neighbors and my neighborhood was actually excited for me to be on the show, and that's why there's
Well, I mean, I'm excited for you. I mean, my new friend who is next door to me, Abby. I won't say her last name because she'll probably be mortified. I mean, probably block me from Instagram. She's definitely excited for you. I'm excited to have met her, but she apparently had met me on Instagram, and I didn't even know it. But yeah, I mean, we're excited to have you, and I'm sure the neighbors are still excited to have you.
Well, technically, what I've been doing is just living monotonously through life.
All right, well, that's good. I think
Nothing really big, but at the same time, I'm always open for suggestions or ideas or plans or things from out there in the world. If I get reached out to for help, I'll help however I can. Always been like that.
Mm-hmm.
So just minding my time, waiting. I have a feeling though, someone probably put a binding ritual on me, and I'm kind of bound to Georgia. Can't leave right now, and if that's the case, I will track it down. I will destroy it, and I will be able to leave again. So, I mean, who knows?
Well, it's kind of, I guess, you made an interesting point because Copper Dragon, obviously, we all know Copper Dragon's rating scale, all the matches he's done. He's been kind of on the down low the last few months also. I don't think it's related, but it's almost goes correlating the same time. It's almost, he's been kind of out of the loop the last 4 or 5 months. I had a conversation with him. Ironically, the last time I spoke with him was on the day of the Super Bowl, and which was much more exciting to speak to him than the game itself. And he's been kind of out of the loop since. You've been kind of almost around the same time, maybe a little bit before that. So, it kind of matches maybe just where maybe you'll go next. Maybe something big will come out, and I mean, I did want to ask you since you last had been here. We'll come back to that. I had
Mhm.
Skrilla on here at the beginning of the year. I had him on right after Rhino, and obviously Skrilla has had a lot of success. And I was curious what your reactions have been toward what Skrilla's been up to. Now, I know he's the one guy that you have a lot of history with from back in the day that you have been following. And what is your reactions toward what Skrilla's been up to these days?
Proud Papa. Like, I mean, seriously. Even though he might have sold his will to be part of the default stable, it got him somewhere. And he's doing exactly what I want him to do. And what I want him to do is to become great. And what I want him to do is continue kicking ass. Whether it's Zilla Fatu or whether it's Lexus King or whether
Yep.
it's anyone on the independent scene who thinks they can go to Squirrelville and they be able to stay the night, they'll realize real quick he's the mayor for a reason. And he will take you to school as fast as you can blink. And that's probably one of the best things about him. He's always been like that, even in his early match stages with MGBYW.
Yep.
And I was general manager of that. Eh, He has been literally nonstop ever since. And it's been literally a joy and just proud to see him grow the way he grew, even to the point of getting a part in in a movie.
Yeah, no,
You know,
well, that stuff we talked about when you were here in the past. But
Mhm.
what I really thought was fascinating with what he had to say was, you brought up Lexus King, and I had him on a couple of months after that. He wrestled him, and obviously that was a huge honor because he was wrestling him while he was under contract with WWE, which is a rare thing for WWE to let any of their talent go and wrestle a non-contracted wrestler like Skrilla's. And he kind of went through a period where just things do happen. I sneezed, but he went through a period where almost that, like, not that he was doubting himself, but he was almost not sure where to go. And I thought that was a fascinating reveal when he came here 5.5 months ago, and he's gotten back up on the ladder, and he's been doing a bunch of different things. I'll put his Instagram up in a minute, but I thought it was interesting that he gave an honest reflection that after that match he had a reflection for himself and he thought he should have been, whether it was a product of the WWE ID program or where he should have got more opportunities, the Zilla Fatu thing you talked about. But there was kind of a setback there for a minute, and I thought it was an honest reflection of his and such.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing. In this job, in this profession, if you're trying, you have to self-reflect and see what you can change.
Yeah.
See how you can continue. Yes, you'll have stagnates, you'll have ups, you'll have downs, you'll have disappointments. That's part of, I think, anything and everything in life.
Yeah.
Anything and everything has that possibility of either bringing you joy or being a disappointment. The point is not whether it was great or if it was bad. It was the lesson learned from it. That's what matters. And that's really all that matters. Uh, technically, I think everyone does need self reflection. And in a way, that's what I taught humility. I know he tried to fight for, his willpower back, and I had the match with him
Yes.
at Friends on the Hill, but still, the fact of he wanted to buck against something he signed away. Fine. I have no problem with that. He was still learning. He still
Yeah.
needed guidance. He still needed to reach that dark place to get him where he needs to go. I mean, Kevin Nash said it, perfectly. You're either there to make friends or you're there to make money. And in my opinion, you make money.
Yeah,
Then the
because
friends
you know
come.
what? Friends are fleeting. And at the end of the day, once you get to a certain level, you're going to lose those friends because they're going to be envious of you. And I think that's an interesting point.
And
But
even if they're not envious of you, they might go past you, get higher
yeah,
than you in the company, and then they no
yeah,
longer can hang out. They can no longer travel together. They can't work out together. Now there's separate schedules, whole things, and the separation just
yeah.
fades over time. So you go to make money, and you take every opportunity. And that's one thing he also learned: take every opportunity that you can, take every show that you can, and just hone that ability, hone
But
that
that's an
talent.
interesting point because I mean, you've had Fred Yehai, obviously, he's had a lot of success as well, and a few others. But I think sometimes because he's one of those guys that was in the backyard, but was able
Mhm.
to cross over. Fred, obviously, another one that was able to cross over, obviously from obviously your tutelage, obviously Mr. Dragons as well. And he was able to do it. But I've noticed in the last several months that some of the people that have come on here to the platform are trying to figure out to make that transition. Skrilla figured it out. He was able to do it. Fred was able to do it. You know, obviously Rad Dad was here and he just had the biggest match and the biggest victory of his career over Darius Carter, who's number 152 in the PWI 500. He was obviously able to do it, but I'm noticing now that guys here that have been coming here the last few years are trying to figure that out. So what do you think then somebody like a Skrilla has been able to do that, let's say, those that are here in our circuit today are going to have to figure out, whether it's, for example, a D'Angelo the Flame who's trying to make the adjustment, Mickey Vargas, another guy recently who's now coming your way to make that adjustment. So what do you think that some of those guys need to do to make that transition that, let's say, under your tutelage, Skrilla and let's say Fred Yehai have done?
Okay, so what I would usually say is study your area, study where you're at, where you live. Um, Ask questions, but I would complete, and I know to me it's a contradiction in a way because I always say be proud of where you came from, be proud of what you did, be proud of what got you into the business and what made you want to be part and put your body on the line.
Right.
I've always said that. But at the same time, if you're crossing over and depending on your territory, depending on your state, if you notice that most independent federations that operate in your state are, say, highly offensive towards backyard wrestling, then
Yeah.
don't mention it. Don't
Yeah.
say anything about it. Just show up. Network. Number one, network. You have to network.
Yeah. I
Uh,
think that's
and,
always in anything in life. You know, like I was speaking to my next door neighbor and the young lady, and she was asking me, well, what do you do? And she like, she knows what I do this. I'm like, well, I don't really have a defined job. I just happen to have 5,000 friends in my Rolodex. I mean, that's the honest answer. I've been a networker. I've never in my life had a full-time job, but what I've had is a lot of friends. So I go and, do these different things, and I go out and it's almost like a mini business, and I've had success that way. So I think networking is good for anything, not just wrestling. I think is the moral of the story.
if I take a little bit away from my work as well, then I would also tell people who are trying to cross over, those who record their matches and they have their own federation or companies, make a demo reel.
Yeah, you do
Make
that in basketball. I have a background in college basketball, and what they would do when they were trying to get recruited is they would have a mixtape, or they would call it. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
News works the same way. If a reporter wants to get a new job, they always get, they put together a demo reel of all the stories that they covered and the different shots they use and their creativity so that hopefully the company hires them. Same thing, same basis. However, depending on your territory, so if you have independent promoters who take highly offense to backyard, then of course I would say you pick only the matches in which you were inside somewhere with an audience that it looks indie for
yeah.
them
It looks
to
underground indie. Yeah,
absolutely
don't
stay
show them
away
you
from
on
the
a
footage.
trampoline. Don't show you on the ground. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Absolutely, because it's selling yourself. This
yeah.
is the first step of anyone in the entertainment business. You have to sell yourself. And that is the main goal when it comes to wrestling. This is how people like Cody Rhodes can leave something kind of kosher that he might not like because he feels stifled, go rediscover himself, grind, and then come back as a bigger star.
That's a good
It's the
point because if you think
same
about
thing.
Cody Rhodes, right, with his first stint in WWE, not to say that he didn't have success, but he had, let's say, a middling amount of success. And then he went, like you said, did his own thing, was in the Indies, Ring of Honor, everywhere, and made himself into this. Well, okay, you got to get him. He starts AEW practically with the Young Bucks, and does all that, and then comes into WWE, and some would say this generation's Hulk Hogan. So I mean, that's interesting point there that you made. Cody Rhodes sold himself. Like I said, the first one in WWE. Not to say that he didn't have any success, but certainly not as much success as maybe his family's last name should have. And then he comes in here and look at where he is today. It's an interesting point.
Yep. And so, even someone like John Forge knows it's about selling yourself.
Yeah.
If you want to get into this business, then you go up to a promoter during a event night. You might not be worked that night, but you might be. So always carry your gear. If you have professional gear that you've actually invested in, always have it in a bag. Always have it in your car. Pretty simple, pretty easy. If that's your job, like with me, if I would like to work at a federation, my role is manager. My role is not a wrestler anymore. So as long as I'm wearing something that
Well,
represents
I
my
always appreciate
position,
you were the most well-dressed guest on Sportswire over the years. You've certainly been a lot more better well-dressed than I have. So obviously, I will give you that much. You've always been.
I'm not as well dressed tonight. That's because I'm not in a position of power
It's
in a
July
company.
4th.
So I could
It's,
be myself a little bit more.
it's
So
July. I mean, listen. Yeah, although you are dressed for whatever reason, you remind me of the character in the first Batman movie with what was the guy that gets killed early by Jack Napier. You've got that look a little bit. Remember the scene? He gets
oh
killed
yeah,
and he has chemicals.
yeah,
You're a lot less fatter than
Bob,
him, but yeah, you look like him.
Bob.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, you do remind me of that a little bit. But no, listen, I think that's a good point, and I think it's you've had Shalonze Royal, who's obviously everybody knows her. You've had Skrilla, you've had Fred, so. I think that's kind of what I think that'll be interesting to see because I know you and I were talking about this off the air, and there are guys now, and it kind of feels like it's just such a shorter era though than the era you were in with the GBYWN. But I'm noticing a lot of guys on here now are trying to figure out. Well, I want to make the next step. I want to go out now and train, or I want to go out and be indie. So now, as you pointed out, backyard wrestling, it's kind of some places look at it and, like you said, others are a little bit more relaxed with it. But I think it's kind of, I'm noticing now, and it's come up quicker than I think some might have thought. But I think this generation here is now at a crossroads.
Well, it kind of is, but at the same time, it's a obstacle that time will go over, and there will be
Yeah,
another explosion again.
yeah,
Timing will be right. And I know a lot of people are like, well, how do we keep something long running? How do we do something that's not a few months, then all of a sudden a string of bad weather just kind of just stops us and we just never get back together again?
yeah,
It deals with your group of people. It deals with your cast. It deals with your production. It deals with everything. And what people need to understand to make it work is you have to be a hive mentality. You got to think about the betterment of the show, not championships, not glory and fame. That comes with the hard work. You don't have to strive and try to go for it like realistically. Just concentrate on your talent, concentrate on the show. If you
yeah,
improve both, everything else comes with time. The person who's running the company will see your talent get better, want to put something on you, whether it's a minor title or a major one. They'll want to put it on you to give you a run to see what the people at home think. It is a big responsibility, but unless you're actually touring and doing things where you're doing meet and greets, it's more relaxed. That's the
yeah.
thing about backyard. It's relaxed.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with that. I definitely think that to me there is still a spirit in the backyard that I don't always see in the indies. I've probably done a lot more the last, I'd say 3, 4 months. I probably say I've done 2/3 indie. I mean, and we've had some, great friends, and we've been very appreciative of that. But I think there's still a certain spirit. There's a certain feel in the backyard that I don't always get in the indie scene. And I think that that's something that it's almost not to say naive, not to say it's almost just you're like the first time going out there, but there is this almost sort of like you're feeling that you're going out there like as a kid. You're going out there, and this is just the greatest thing in the world. Whereas in the Indies, this happens more with the British guys I've had, and I haven't really done much British coverage in about like 4 or 5 months, but it's almost like a job. You know what I'm saying? Whereas in the backyard, I feel like there's that spirit still. It's almost like when you were out and a kid going out, you were playing in the playground, you were going out there, and just there was no care in the world. And I think that that's what the backyard brings, whereas the Indies doesn't always bring that out.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. You hit it on the head on what I actually try to tell people when it comes to having a successful backyard federation. You can never leave the backyard.
No.
There is a magical spell that kind of happens when you put a ring on the ground, on
Yeah.
the earth, not concrete, not a parking lot, earth, grass. There's something magical. There's something that happens. It allows people at home to know. There's no guessing. There's literally no guessing. You see it and you know you're getting something that you cannot find on television. And if you watch something on YouTube that is indie, all that does is just remind you of a poor quality
Well, you
professional.
know what they do, right? So, I mean, and I want to say hello to my buddy Blaze the Bingo Hall, who is a fellow colleague of mine. He does more of the independent wrestling circuit, but his friend Ace Christian's here Monday night at 8 o'clock, around 8:15 Eastern time. So happy 4th, Blaze. But you know what they do for an indie show, right? They just, all they're doing is that somebody just takes a camera and records the show and they just upload it. So there's no, most of them, about 80% of these indie shows you watch, if you watch it on YouTube, it's basically just somebody with a camera films the show, and it's that's what it is. Whereas a backyard, you listen, you were a part of it. We put the GWC lookups up there. You're doing the editing, you're doing the commentary, you're looking for the certain angle, you're wrestling for a YouTube audience. Whereas when you're out there, an indie card, it's basically somebody just recording the footage and they post it on YouTube, so wrestlers can have the footage of themselves in the ring that they can use and promote to whatever they need to be.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. But I also tell people, with backyard, there's no limit to creativity. There's no box.
You're a YouTube.
There's no state.
Yeah, you're a YouTube product. Your audience is YouTube.
Yes, and me working personally in TV.
Yes, sir.
I absolutely understand the entire concept of your show. Is if you're doing it on YouTube, if you're performing on YouTube, and you know your YouTube audience, then you need to base that growth on them, towards them. That's why Rad Dad said it. When you're doing YouTube, you have an audience of one.
Yeah,
and you have to break that fourth wall and talk to the camera, because if you don't have a big huge audience in the yard watching, then you have to talk to somebody.
I mean, let's be honest, most shows in the backyard are not going to have a large audience watching. So you can go out and take 2, take 3, take 4. You're a TV guy, take 100.
And that's another thing I also like to press. If there's no real live audience, there's no rush. This is another thing that makes the product good. But you don't want to go overbearing. Sometimes things happen, botches happen, but you don't want to go overbearing where every 5 minutes.
It's like, okay, music, when they go out and record an album, right? And then it's like they're just going and they're overdubbing over and over and over. And it's like, okay, well, I got it. I mean, the producer will be like, all right, I got the point. Let's, take 1,000.
There's a little bit more. But if you feel like you can do something a little bit better, then go ahead, reshoot it. Know exactly where you're taking it from, what part in the match that you're doing, and you would run it just like a movie, just like a television show, because that's part of editing. That's part of the entire concept. And so there's no rush. The only thing of rush is putting it out there so you have something to be proud of, something
Yeah.
to show, something that says my hard
Well,
work
let
is
me.
not
All right.
going
Well, as we here with
unnoticed.
the legendary Mr. Hardcore, of course, the man you think about GWC Intensity was right at the front and center of that. The GBYWN, of course, our beloved Global Backyard Wrestling Network, which is always something we talk a lot about here on Sportswire Radio. I have something for Mr. Hardcore in a little while, and my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. Your voice, figuratively and literally, with all music and wrestling matters. Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question that I haven't had a chance to ask anybody, believe it or not, over the years, and I've had countless people on here. Is there a right amount of time when you go out and wrestle and film that to put it out? Some people do it in 3-4 days. Others, they wait 3-4 weeks. Other people do it in between that. Was there a period of time that you feel, okay, let's say we film tomorrow, uh, between editing and re looking at the footage, cleaning up whatever, and putting it out, whether it's toward an algorithm or anything else? Is there an exact time or a perfect time to put a product out, do you think?
Well, I mean, that also depends on the person who's editing and their skill level.
Oh.
If you're meticulous in a perfection, then I would say taking a week to actually making sure that it is presentable in exactly the way you want it to be, that makes logical sense. This is
Mhm.
kind of a complex answer in a way because we're
Okay.
talking about time, and time is wibbly wobbly. So it's one of those things that, in my opinion, it doesn't matter as long as you stick to it. So as a federation or a company, if you decide you're going to take 2 weeks to edit the stuff and get it out, stick to that time limit. This allows the fans to get used to your cycle, what you do, how you present. Don't change it up. Don't break it down all of a sudden. If you got one out faster, that's okay, but don't take longer.
I
Make
don't. Well, I
sure
don't
that
think you can do it in a day. I don't think you can do it in a day.
unless literally that's all you do is just edit. I mean, like you have nothing else to
Well,
do.
I'll give you an
Uh,
example. Listen, when I used to do this on the audio, this is years ago. We're talking about during COVID when I started out 6.5 years ago. I would interview different people. I was doing college sports, and I would almost feel like even when I would rush the editing, because you'd have to splice the audio, you have to clean it up. I was doing the interviews. Guys would be on the telephone. I'd have to format it. It would take me, I think, if all I did was edit, like 3 days between the cleaning of the audio, cutting out certain words. Three
yeah,
days. 3 days
and it
was like
also depends on how you shoot your show. Like
true.
for
Yeah.
GWC and the way me and Copper agree, because we both work together at the news
Oh,
station here in Macon
yep.
for a time period. Um, you have your standstill camera that is just does not move. You have an aerial shot camera, and then you have a floating camera. That's a cameraman walking around getting better angles. It's going to take longer to edit if you have that many cameras, but I promise you, it's going to look good in the long run. And it might take 2 weeks. It could take 3 weeks, depending on meticulousness and how perfect you want it to be. Um, but it's one of those where that's so complex because it depends on talent. It depends on the type of
Yeah.
program you're working with. It depends on the capabilities of your personal computer. It really all depends on that itself. So
Yeah.
I don't think there's a right or wrong way on how long it should take. But if you decide on a time limit, stick to it.
No, I thought it would be interesting because you guys, I mean, obviously, I mean, listen, the amount of subscribers, the amount of success that you have, was there ever a pressure to get things out at a certain time when you and Copper were obviously running the company? And I figured I'd go down memory lane for you. But I mean, was there ever a rush to put things out? Did you ever feel a certain pressure, you and Copper?
I mean, for me, yes. I think only because of the fact that I am very much aware that not everyone has time on their hands, and some people can't do it forever. And so,
Yeah.
making sure that their stuff is out there so they can be proud of it, and they can get feedback and whatever that's very important. However, Copper was very meticulous on certain matches and certain things that were recorded had a certain time limit in which they needed to be out. So
Well, we're
for
aware
that,
of that with his ratings. I mean, he certainly does
right.
give his opinion, Mr. Dragon.
So like Rise to Royalty. Rise to
Yep.
Royalty is usually filmed um, somewhere. in the October area so that it is ready to be released around Thanksgiving.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Um, right, so because that's a big match. There's a lot of people involved, possibly multiple angles depending on that year and the
Yeah.
supplies that we have to use. So, I mean, he has certain time limit for certain matches, and but when it when it comes to time limit out, he was really good. I mean, in my opinion, he could get it done like in 2 to 3 days.
Hmm.
Um, but life takes over, and when life takes over, you try to find someone else who can do it, and then after a
Yeah.
while, they're not maybe as fast, and so I mean, it depends on the person who's editing and their skill level as well as programs and computer based.
And speaking of people here that want to say hello, I want to say hello to my friend who hasn't been here in a while, and I don't blame him, Mr. Eddie Pizzo, of course, Dooley, which we hope is doing something out here. But the very good friend of mine, Mr. Eddie, hope you're doing well. Happy 4th. God bless you. And hope you're enjoying the show. And it's been a minute. And yeah, it's been a minute. Oh, maybe you want to catch up one of these days. And Xavier Thorne is here. His obviously he's dealing with a difficult day. The anniversary of his mother's birthday and her fortunate passing. But he does want to say that he does love you. So thank you for the plug there. But yeah, definitely, Eddie. It would be good to catch up. But we're here with Mr. Hardcore and going down memory lane, talking about some other. I'm going to tell you something that what I know. I'm going to take a detour from backyard wrestling. You're gonna laugh and say, "Boy, you're a guy that covers wrestling. And you're nuts to say this on the air." I've been admitting this, Mister Hardcore, but I haven't watched Raw once since it's been on Netflix.
Oh, surprisingly, that doesn't surprise me. I
Why?
went
Why?
years with that. Well, because I literally went years without watching it ever on regular television, or even when
Yeah.
I think when they went to Netflix, I thought, you know what? Why the hell not? Let's give it a shot, see what this is about. And that was around. Oh well, no, it was a little bit, I guess, before WrestleMania. But because for WrestleMania, I got Peacock so that I could watch that.
Yeah,
Um,
you'll watch that. Yeah, you'll watch that.
but it was one of those. Well, why not? $7.99, whatever. Sure. Uh, but yeah, I mean, no, I didn't watch it for the longest time. I just catch recaps from WWE on YouTube and be like, okay, I got the gist of everything that happened that night. Moving on. So I know that doesn't surprise me because I spent so long, and it only wasn't then this year did I actually start watching Netflix.
I just don't have Netflix, and I don't know. I mean, do you think that I mean you're in the TV business? Do you think that that's the way of wrestling or sports in general? I mean, a lot was made recently about the fact that the NBA actually split from, speaking of Atlanta, Turner Broadcasting had the NBA for 40 years, and they're now going to Amazon, also with NBC/Peacock, and WWE being a part of Netflix. The NFL now putting on games on Amazon Prime on Thursdays, and there's Friday games that they're putting on for Black Friday, amongst other things. And is that we're going to see more wrestling go on streaming, or what? If you're in the TV
Oh,
business, what is your thoughts on that?
I would say probably yes. That's the trend. That right now is just the trend.
Yeah.
Uh, Soon, no one's going to have regular television with regular cable.
Does anybody even have? I don't think you can buy regular TV. You remember when you would buy a TV, they would give you a certain amount of channels. I don't think you can buy a
You
TV
can get
anymore. You have to buy a certain analog. Eddie Pizzo would know. He's my buddy. He's in business. So I don't think you can even buy a TV anymore unless it's a certain digital router or
right,
something.
right. Well, right. Yeah, basically, a digital TV is going to have access to getting the digital local channels, but you would need a special antenna if you had a regular
Yeah.
TV to
Yep.
convert it so that you can pick them up. Um, yeah, I was working there when we made the switch from analog to digital. Um, it was a little bummy. It's like, oh, there goes youth, there goes everything. But it did make the job easier though. No more tapes to have to worry about.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a good point. But no, I mean, I'll get to Xavier Thorne in a minute. But I do think that it's interesting to see the landscape of wrestling and even sports, where it goes in the next few years, because these TV deals, AEW has a deal with Turner. They have it for a few more years, but Turner, it's been well put out there that their sports programmings have been shifted. Warner Brothers Discovery is split up. They've split into two different companies. And I'd be curious to see what also the next WWE deal. I think they have the USA one's a shorter term deal than the Netflix one.
Mhm.
Where this all goes. I mean, sports I brought up. I mean, baseball's deal with ESPN runs out at the end of the year. Well, they've opted out. The NHL's deal ends in a couple years. The NFL has an opt out. So I just think that it's interesting to see where all of it goes. That's why I just thought I'd be upfront and say I haven't watched Raw once. I never. I mean, I know what's going on. We do this. I mean, I know people tell me things and I give my input. Not that it matters, but I just thought it'd be. I just thought I'd just mention it for giggles.
Oh, well, I mean, the only show for the longest time that I was able to kind of watch, but silently, in other words, I couldn't have the volume up, was SmackDown on Fridays when it was on Fox.
Sorry to take it away from me because SmackDown be on now, but I took you away from SmackDown, so sorry
Oh,
about that.
well, I wouldn't watch it until the clips come out. I don't have
Oh, okay.
the right streaming for that show. That's
Oh,
another thing.
oh,
That's another thing. They're going to break it up so they can make more money. So each
yeah,
platform gets a benefit and a little taste of WWE and pro wrestling.
yeah.
I'm not doing that.
No,
That's like I
well,
like wrestling, but I don't love it that much where I'm wasting money.
Well, I think that's the way. Listen, and a guy in my neighborhood who was a big sports fan, and I never forget this, and he told me this, and he almost sounds like Nostradamus. Said this to me about 10, 15 years ago, and he told me, Tom. I said yes. I said what is it? And he goes, you're going to be paying for all these sports programming per channel or per thing, and I looked at him like, well, what do you mean? And he was explaining to me that these networks that they spend on all this money, they're going to lose money eventually because the ratings aren't what they are. And you can only have so many people go and watch a live sporting event, that the amount of money that they'll wind up generating when they put it out per an a la carte package would kind of lead to where we're going to be. And he seemed like a Nostradamus. So that's that. I do want to get to Eddie Pizzo. ESPN blew it. You can't see all the games in one place anymore. Yeah, I mean, ESPN, unfortunately, their NBA coverage is not very good. Their Major League Baseball coverage is not very good. Their NHL coverage is not very good. The NFL coverage has gotten a little bit better. I kind of like the Manning cast, but everything else. That's why you see ESPN stock declining and other things have been out there. But that's a good point. But let me get to Xavier Thorne because he has a few comments related to this. My favorite match from Hardcore was River Run Riot and the MJ Payne matches. You wanna enlighten the audience, or
Well, I mean, that was the new cast. That was the new cast. That was 2019,
yeah,
2020.
when he came in
Um,
there,
right. That was a new cast. It was fun because um as new people to GWC Intensity, there's always a level of nervousness and fear.
why?
Well, I mean, from what they said, they were massive watchers of the product. So they were very aware of my capabilities, what I was able to do, or what I might do, say. And so there was a part of them that was a little nervous, maybe, a little, kind of frightened in a way. But at the same time, I think they realized just how easy I am to work with. And the fact of, uh, I guess what makes it funny to me is that was the year that the roster wanted to kind of buck up against me,
Yeah,
and
yes.
I think they realized not smart, not smart at all. Don't do that. Um, I'm general manager because I'm generally managing everybody. So just do what the hell I'm telling you, and it will all go well. I promise. Whether you trust me or not, don't really care. Just do
Youngins,
what I
huh?
tell you.
That's youth inexperience there for you, huh?
well, yes, of course, maybe a little starstruck. I mean, I think anyone would be.
Absolutely,
Um,
there's no question the
so
footprint
you know,
that you guys had. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I don't blame and I don't ridicule that whatsoever because I couldn't say that if I was in the same position, I wouldn't feel the same way. Um, but I have a different philosophy with celebrities. They're just people. They just try to do a
yeah.
job.
I kind of learned that too. I think people think, oh my god, but guess what? They go to the bathroom like you. They go to sleep like you. They
Yeah.
eventually go to the same place that you will go. So once you kind of get over that, people have this like big thing. Oh my god! But having a lot of the bands come on here, really, in some ways, the celebrities are worse than regular people, from my personal experience.
Yes. Well, we all pretty much can know why, easily deduct them. Most of the career is about them.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
their agent, pushes them, talks about them, does what they're supposed to. This is sports. This is about me. It goes in all entertainment realms. And so they get lost in that feeling. They get lost in the dopamine that gets constantly released when you're praised and highly talked about and gloated about and treated special than anybody else. That's kind of part of it. I mean, it determines on where your emotional stability is.
Yeah.
Can you see all this things happening, all these good things happening, all these important things happening, and still hold and maintain a peacefulness of yourself, who you are, not forgetting who you are,
Yeah.
not forgetting what you've done, not
I always
forgetting
say
that.
that on here. Yeah, that's a good point. I always do bring that up.
Never forget, you can be better. You can learn more. You can always learn more. You can learn as much as you want. As long as you're alive, you can learn. So, whatever it is you're doing, you learn. If that's listening from other people who you're working with, who's telling you stories or giving advice, great. If that's, just experience itself of living through it,
Yeah.
remember it, grow from it, use it, but don't abuse it. um that's probably the best thing I can say. It's a mentality, it's a thought process.
Well,
Those,
well, you gave some
but
good
those
advice.
matches were
You know.
fun. Those matches were fun because River was flexible. I could hit a lot of weird locked in submission moves because how flexible he was. um MJ Payne was just funny. It, he was just, there was just something about him that was just entertaining, and I saw potential, high potential in him. Uh, he had to clean up some things. When your superstar, when your favorite superstars leak too much from your gimmick, you've got to reel it back.
Yeah.
You can't. It's okay to take something minuscule, something small about a past wrestler that you love and use it
Sure.
somewhere in your creation. Everyone does it. There's not anyone who doesn't do that, but you don't take all of it. You don't you don't let too much of that cipher out because then people can't get behind you. They can't really. They're like, is he just trying to be something else? Or is
Yeah.
he trying to be a second coming of somebody? It's like, no, 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 don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Find you. Be you. I know it's a hard phrase. It's a hard thing to learn. And most people would tell you that if someone comes to you and says,
Yeah.
and you want them to explain their gimmick, and they're like, "Well, it's just me." It's like, "Well, put on a fucking mask. Go put on a mask. Go do what Go do something. Go put on a mask and find out who the hell you are before you put your face on camera dictating who you are, because at least you can grow, you can make mistakes, you can botch, you can do all those things because you're wearing a luchador mask and you're something else. But take everything that you learn and put it when you're ready to unveil and be you, then you know you know you
Yeah.
better than at that point anyone else.
No, that's a good point. That is a good point. And I do want to point out, because I got some more comments and some people in and on the chat. If you'd like to watch some of the past content from GWC Intensity, I would really recommend that. And please support our friends here in the GWC, and certainly the legendary Mr. Harker. I got something for you here in a few minutes. And I do want to say hello to the man that I'm wearing a shirt of. That's Aaron Blaze, the headline Aaron Blaze, the now 13-time YBW Hardcore champion, a man that has multiple places. Will probably be tuning into Monday's show, because the other guy with the nickname Blaze, Ace Christian's here, 8 o'clock, and he'll talk about Aaron Blaze and their little mix-up they had in DBW. But YBW Hardcore champion Aaron Blaze, happy 4th, and hope you're enjoying me wearing your shirt. I'm sure you won't have a problem with that. And hit the sub button for the GWC, and let me see who else is here. Zilla has arrived. And happy 4th, Zilla. Zilla's from Georgia, by the way. Zilla is from Georgia.
Oh, hello, Zilla. I hope things are well with you.
Yeah, I think they are. She's arrived, so she's doing well. So she's doing well enough that she's arrived. Let me see here what else we got from Xavier Thorne. He has a bunch of things to say, and we'll get to them one by one. The fact that he was a part of the whole T3 scandal was extremely better than the Bloodline story, because this was personal. That's a good point. Good point.
Oh, yeah.
And he's also still upset that you beat him for the ATAP championship, but it was worth it.
Well, it was a lesson. That was a lesson. A championship like that can and needs and has to be defended 24/7. However, there was a twist. If you challenged and you lost, then you couldn't challenge again for 24 hours.
Yes.
Other people have to have a chance too. But anytime, any place. And it was just to show them. Gloat. Be prideful. See what happens.
Well, he does have some more comments. John Forge, we've talked about him here before. Absolutely. And what we just saw was a fantastic match. And that match I'd put up over a lot of other matches I've seen on here. He does want to go on and say, I've learned how to be humble and take my craft seriously thanks to GWC. So thank you. I hope we can bring it back. Well, just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, keep doing what you're doing, and just one day at a time. And who knows what'll happen.
That's right.
Happy 4th. Yes, thank you, Eddie. Hit the sub button for the GWC. Also, give me your heart. I think he's talking to Aaron Blaze, and I appreciate the representation. And he says no to Xavier Thorne. And also, yeah, well, Xavier Thorne, Xavier Thorne's Thorne is Thorne, but he does love your Irish accent.
Well, that it's something I haven't done in a very long time.
Yeah, you haven't done it in a while. Yeah.
No, I think I cut that back out really long.
Yeah.
It was something that allowed me to get used to my voice on camera. For those people who have a hard time with promo because they're like, I can't stand the way I sound.
It's funny. I tell you what, though, it's funny that you said on the voice thing, because I have a background in politics and obviously doing this for a while. I will say it does, for some people, it does take a while to get used to. I would say it took me, honestly, when I started doing this, it took me like over a year to kind of like get over hearing your voice. Now it's almost like it's no big deal. But for some people, there is an adjustment. I remember listening when I was in politics. I would be right behind these candidates, and I would never want to be in front with the candidate. I would do everything with the candidate, everything but be the candidate. I played every role, but I would always, my voice, I always was like, and even doing when I transitioned to doing podcasting 6.5 years ago, remember it took me like about a year. Once I got over that, I was fine. But there are people that you don't get used to hearing your voice. It could be a bit of something that is awkward at first.
Yeah, well, a lot of it hits with the whole critical inner voice and how judgmental we are about ourselves, and we know what we sound like from the inner part of our mouth and our voice reaching to our ears, but we're not hearing what, say, someone else hears.
Yeah.
But I would always suggest you always try something else. Try an accent. Try something that isn't technically your voice so that when you hear it back, it's not as cringy because it's not technically your voice. You're manipulating your voice. You're changing it somehow. It can change the entire dynamic of your mind doing it that way, because then when you drop it, because the time in which I dropped it, I was doing it for the longest time, but it was the storyline between the backyarders and the pro. And when the stable had to ally ourselves with Genesis
Yes.
um, for the Tenacious 12, which was a fantastic match, the most
Yes.
chaotic thing that we have ever produced, and in my opinion, one of the best things ever produced. That's when I decided to drop it for the most part, because in a way, it's telling the seriousness, and I had gotten used to my voice, hearing it, and having the Irish accent. I knew it wasn't really me anymore, but in a storyline, you want to adhere, seriousness. So, what do you do if you seem to be like a joker? Not i.e. DC comic style, but a person who doesn't take anything in the wrestling business seriously, is all about disrupting everything you have, taking away what you love, just for the sake of doing it, because, well, that just makes me giggle. And it brings something to my black heart to know that I'm taking something away from you. I'm causing you pain and I'm causing you fear without actually physically harming you. I'm taking away. You could ask Casey Kincaid when Shane Marks turned on him, who do you think orchestrated that? That would have been me. Behind the scenes. I warned people even back then, if you don't see me on camera, worry. Because that's where I'm the most
You're
dangerous.
plotting. I get it. You're plotting. You're thinking about what you can do, and it gives you more time. What's the old expression? Idle time makes for the devil's hands, or something like that, right?
Idle hands make for a devil's plaything.
Close enough. Close, but no cigar.
But I was technically the snake that rolled into the garden.
That's why I'm staying on this side of the glass and not coming into your world. That's why I'm staying here, so you don't do plot against me as well, sir.
Oh, I would never plot against you.
I know that, but I'm just saying
Absolutely not.
a metaphorical point.
I mean, sure, I would love to have a stable in every federation out there.
You know,
Have
you have
you
said
know?
before. Listen, you never know. Listen, you have said on here the times you've been here that listen, you never know. I mean, so I wouldn't be surprised. And I do want to say hello to some other people here. Speaking of people from the GBYW, and that is returned once again out there, the legendary Mr. Doc Holliday. The legendary Doc Holliday is here. He wants to say happy all and happy fourth. And I don't think Xavier Thorne's Obama, but I think they were going back and forth. But yeah, we're gonna leave that at that. But yeah, but certainly who knows? But yes, hello. But I want to give you something because I want to get into some other things over the next little while. But I think it's time to give you something because obviously you've meant so much to the wrestling world. You've meant so much to me on a personal level. And I know you'd say, well, what do you mean? You're crazy. You've been on here, yes, but you've done so much for our sport. And I truly appreciate everything that you've done for the backyard and underground and the wrestling world and I know you've obviously had some moments on social media I'm not going to get into and I messaged you and I got something for you and I trust me I can't quite be Doc Holliday. He's a doctor, but I can certainly. Once upon a time, Mr. Hardcore, I was in a bar in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, where I don't drink, and I was trying to pick up girls. Abby, you better not hear this, but I was telling them I was a doctor. My bank account might reflect I could be a doctor, but I'm not a doctor. But I am certainly the doctor of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame because congratulations, Mr. Hardcore. You are now the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, and the most recent members were the band LA Guns. So we had Mark Farner of Grand Funk Railroad a couple weeks ago get into the class, Maverick from the WVWF, and you joined the class, and congratulations, and it's about time. And we thank you for everything you've done for our sport and for the backyard wrestling world, and this night's for you.
Well, I appreciate that so much. Like I said before, that it helps vindicate what I did, and it helps show me that no matter whether or not I went as far as I would like to, what I experienced and what I had and what I was part of was special, and it was
It
amazing.
was. I mean,
And
Peanut Butter
and it,
Falcon. think about what you've done with Shalonce, Fred, Skrilla, and others. John Ford was mentioned. I mean, no, you did do a lot of great things.
Yes, and that's what makes me so happy to know that even if something, nothing ever comes of anything again, I'm happy with what I have been through. It has given me back so much joy throughout my life, and when doing it, that I can't complain much of anything. Sure, I would have liked certain storylines to have gone off, maybe certain things to have happened, but you know, that's just the luck of the draw. Can't hold on to it, can't regret on it, can't dwell. So we move on, and we just appreciate what we were able to be part of, what we were able to put out there for people to, um, you know, soak up and love. And I'm just happy I was able to get the emotional response from the viewers. And, I thank them for coming and, verbally attacking me in the comment section for my antics and
They
my,
did. I mean, they definitely did. You definitely
and
did
I
have.
love them for it.
You
I
had the boo
absolutely love them
birds.
for it.
They call
And
them the boo birds. You had them.
yeah, I did. But I also had my followers also, and I love them too. Um, you know, Without support in any way, whether it's in federation, family, friends, or even online community. Without that, there isn't much self motivation that
No,
can be
you
pushed. You
need that.
need
It's a
those.
good point. You do need that feedback. You need to hear what people. I was listening to something, and again, I know it's not quite to the wrestling. I'll get to Xavier Thorne's comments, although they're relevant, but not that relevant. But I'll read it off because Xavier Thorne's a tough day for his family, so I'm going to do that. And I like you, Xavier Thorne. You're a good guy. But I mean, I'm listening to one of the bands that have LA Guns, and the guitarist and the leader of the band was talking about Tracy Guns. He goes, "Wow." Yeah, I mean, fans want a certain thing, but I don't put the music out and worry about what the people think. And I get that, but I kind of feel whether you're a wrestler or an actor or a musician, whatever it is, you are looking for that reaction. You are looking, listen, you can't, we know, what did we learn during COVID, right? That we all agree that when there was no fans, right, in WWE or in other sports, that it wasn't the same, right? So we all need that feedback. We feed off the adrenaline, the intensity, the environment, whatever it might be, we feed off that. So just like what you guys did in GWC, you fed off that, whether it was the reactions from the people watching it at home, whether it was comments on YouTube or on social media, or even from those in the locker room that you worked with. You are ultimately wanting that reaction and getting a certain type of it from whoever it might be. So yeah, you're lying. Anybody's out there is lying if they're saying to you that they don't care what people think. They just go out there and do it. It's a lie.
That absolutely, that 100%, because we always care what people think. We hope for a certain reaction. In backyard, we have the freedom to always change, to morph, to get that reaction, to find that reaction. When you're an actor or a musician, all you can do is hope for that dream reaction. Hope that the
Yeah.
movie you've done or the show that you've done will get the reactions you feel that people should give. The same thing with musicians. You make a song, you invest in that song, you're emotionally into that song, you poured your heart and soul, and all you can hope for is that it gets that reaction from the people. Backyard, on the other hand, it's more creative where you can find it and you can keep doing certain things and finding it. So, in a way, yeah, they all intertwine and they're all connected and it's all the same. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately you want that reaction, and Xavier Thorne wants to wrestle Aaron Blaze. That's up to Aaron Blaze, but thank you for the kind words, and he congratulates you. And yes, I do appreciate covering backyard and underground wrestling, but I can't speak on behalf of Aaron Blaze. I can't. But people, they have other ideas. Well, I'll let them figure that out. But you sound like somebody that's still got a lot to give. I mean, I say it all the time, but you got a lot of knowledge, and I don't know when the time will come, but I hope to see you back doing something.
Oh, you always keep hopefully a window and a door open and never keep them closed whatsoever. I just know, certain things right now make it a little bit harder.
It's a tough,
You know,
I will admit it, and I won't say who. I was speaking with a recent guest that came on here. That's goes back and goes back to your time. But you were right in front and center in the GBYWN, and it is kind of a time that it's almost like it's a cycle is ending here in the backyard circuit. It feels like it was a quick one, but a lot of things played out since you last came here. There were certain things that happened toward the end of last year that basically was like chain reaction. It hit a lot of different people, and then I think this year what's happened is different guys have decided that they're ultimately looking to make the next step in their wrestling careers. So it kind of feels like right now that this era of backyard wrestling is not to say it's being flushed out, but a new cycle is repeating. There's even some certain companies out there that are in their last seasons and they're not going to continue. We have one LBYW, Legendary Backyard Wrestling. They're here in 2 weeks, and this is their last season. There have been other guys out there that have said, this is it. This is what you're going to see from me. So it is kind of a time almost where this generation is either moving on and maybe there'll be a new era, but it does seem like it might be a tough time to get back into it because we had all of this last year. Everybody wants to go here. We're going to have this super event. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But this year, it's more like self-reflections. We're figuring out what the next move is and almost it's a cycle ending, and then we'll see what the next one brings, more or less.
Yeah, that's exactly what this is, and it really depends on the dedicated ones of what companies are, having their last season. The dedicated ones will allow it to happen. They will sit back and try to process everything that happened, but there's going to be a part of them in their head on how they can keep it going. They might have to change the name. They might have to change concepts. But there's always that thought. It never goes away. It's always there. You can say you're done. You can say okay.
Well,
No,
in wrestling, listen, we know in wrestling, right? Everybody says they're retired. And I mean, how many times has Flair come back? I mean, Shawn Michaels had retired, had the one match in Saudi. I mean, almost everybody says they're retired and they wind up coming back in some form.
right. And it's usually the people who aren't technically behind the decision of ending.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are actually going to be like, well, we're not done. We're not finished. We want to continue this. So they're going to let it happen. They might not be happy about it, but they'll let it happen so they can sit there and figure out how to start something themselves, so that it continues, and it'll be that next new thing that someone was part of some company, and it's going to take off, and we'll have another big huge explosion. It, like I said, every
It
for
just seemed like that
federation to stay
this
around.
one, though, at least from here, it just seemed like that this one was like, I don't want to say it was short lived, but it seemed shorter than the GBYWN era that you were a part of. That one just seemed like it was a while, and it was like you had Osprey in there. I mean, you had waves of just. I mean, it just
Yeah.
took on a life of its own. Whereas this one, I think there was dominoes that kind of almost led it to where look, I think some of it's like LBYW. I was speaking to the proprietor of the company. It's not related to this. There's some other guys out there in the yard that said this is their last season. There's other ones that they've been admitting, I don't know how much left I have in me. Other guys have made the decision that they want to train, and that's totally fine. D'Angelo LaFlame was on here about a month ago and said he was going to make the jump to train, and he's been training, but now going more full throttle. Mickey Vargas was another guy. Big Man Cam is another guy that's come on here and said, I'm training to be a pro. And so, I mean, I get that. I mean, I get it, but, I think it's obviously almost like at a crossroads, to almost steal yesterday's phrase what we talked about. It's like we're at a crossroads right now.
Yeah. But these happen.
Yeah.
A
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of it, a lot of it's life.
Yeah, but
A lot
listen,
of it.
we're not WWE. Listen, we're not getting paid. I get it. Listen, you're in backyard or you're in the underground. by and large, I mean, shout out to Ox McCoy. I mean, IMF, they draw hundreds of people. So they're in a league of its own. They're the underground indie thing, but everybody else, you're not getting paid to do this. You don't have, the YouTube money is nickels on the pennies on the dollar. So, really you're going out there, you're doing it because this is a dedicated hobby. It's a
Yeah.
passion project. And either things happen, you get a family, get a girlfriend, get a job, not everybody like me has the big bucks, they could just sit here
And,
all
and I'm
day.
not going to lie, a lot of times that's where a lot of the the death comes from. And
Yeah.
I hate doing this and I hate putting it on this, but it's true. If your family, your girlfriend, your fiance, your wife, if they do not support you, I promise you, you will
Listen,
not be
Mr.
able to
Hardcore, I
succeed.
gotta be honest with you. I mean, I'm very lucky because I'm doing this 6.5 years, but I didn't have anybody telling me, I mean, I did make some sacrifices. I was lucky, financially. I didn't have, kids. I didn't have a wife, a girlfriend. I had a political career that was kind of like, I could do what I wanted, but I was very fortunate that I could keep going on and doing a podcast that, like, I mean, I did it for years. I mean, most people, it's like, they do like 5 or 6 episodes, because I used to give a lot of advice to podcasters, and you do 5, 6, 7, 8 episodes. You go, look, I got 50 hits the first one because my friends showed up, or 100 hits, and then they're down to like 10 or 12 hits, and they decide, well, I ain't gonna make any money, and they give up. Where I was lucky. I was like looking to build, and I didn't have anybody that was in my ear telling me. Yet my mom hated me doing the podcast for about 3 years. Now she's like, I've had all the rock bands. Oh, she sings. Oh, it's great. I knew you were going to do it. She's like, I knew you were going to be famous. I knew you were going to be great. I was telling you from the very beginning, but so it's fine. I'm all with it. Thank you for, she couldn't stand it. She couldn't. I will never forget it. Now it's great,
Uh,
but a lot of,
I had the same feeling. I had the same feeling from my mother until
yeah,
the
but
movie
a
came
lot of
and
people,
the music video. They're like, "Oh,
yeah, but I think it's a thing in backyard in the underground, is that, like, things get in the way, whether it's bills, Copper talked about it. Mr. Dragon talked about this here. That was one of the death knells in the GBYWN or in other feds, was that, like, look, I become 25, 26, 27 years, maybe even a little older, and I have a kid, or I have to get a job, or something comes up, and I can't do this anymore. I mean, there is a part of that.
and I can't deny that because I
No,
have an
I
18-year
agree.
old daughter. I have an 18-year old daughter that I raised while doing the show. Um, I just made sure she wasn't always with me because I knew if she came with,
Mm,
the people at home weren't gonna get me at all. They weren't gonna get the full me at all. And the people at the site itself, part of the show, the roster, they weren't going to get me at all either, not 100%, because
yeah,
half of me is actually being a dad. Half of me is going to be watching out and making sure my youngin ain't getting into anything,
yeah.
not doing anything that they're not supposed to be doing. So my attention is not where it needs to be. So I always made sure that, you know, I had a sitter for her so somebody could watch her. And of course, if no one could, then other than a couple of rare moments when she got into double digits, that I
Mm,
might brought her to a filming. But other than that, if we had filming at my house, which where GWC was filmed at the time,
mhm.
other kids were there, so she was playing with other kids and not paying attention to what we were doing. So, but for the most part, yeah, if you have the situation that will allow you to continue to do, it's the support. It's technically the support system, no matter what happens in your life and what you have to face, whether it's parenthood, whether it's job, whether it's girlfriend.
Well, Mr. Dragon,
It's,
like I said,
uh,
Mr. Dragon did talk about that would be something, and that, like, I mean, you can't, look, if people have responsibilities, we're not, like I said, we're not WWE, we're not AEW,
mm-mm.
we're not Impact, we're not Ring of Honor. I mean,
Nope.
unfortunately, at this level, that's the reality of it. I mean, you're not even GTS. I mean, with
Nope.
Grim, you're with the million subscribers, where you can say, all right, that's my job. But you, unfortunately, at this level, if things, life gets in the way, I never forget when I was a little kid. This stuck out with me. My dad he wanted to badly make it in, being a musician. He was he played famous places in New York. He was getting there, and then he said, I remember asking him because he didn't have a drum set for a long time. And for a long time, I asked him once, well, so what happened? He goes, you were born. I always stuck out in my head, like, so things get in the way. He wasn't trying to make me feel bad that I was born, obviously, but he was saying in terms of chasing what he wanted to do, he
He
had to
found you
go.
more important.
Yeah, I mean, so like, look, and a lot of wrestlers, in the back, you have to fit. Like I said, I've been fortunate. I've said I've been doing this a long time, but I didn't have responsibilities. I had luck. I had good finances. I never went no vacations, no nothing. I also had good luck. Did very well financially in a couple things, and I could do this as long as I could to get somewhere. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's where. And even still, I need to do better. But I mean, the point is that the backyard, I think that is something that this generation, some have probably faced already, and that's a part of it. But I do think that, it feels like that, like going back to what I asked you before I move on to a few other things, is that I do think that this generation cycle is moving on to an end. It's moving on where other people will do other things. Some people I think will stay. Others will figure out maybe life is in the way, they can't do it. I do think that some things that happened last year definitely was a bummer. It was a divider. I do think that was a bit of it, but so maybe it's better for you to bide your time and wait, and maybe in a year, 2 years from now, there'll be the right
Yeah.
opportunity.
That's what I'm hoping.
I
If
think so.
anything, that's what I'm hoping for.
You know what? I'm going to make you laugh. Actually, I should announce it on here, but I have actually got basement wrestlers coming on to Sportswire in a couple of Yes, basement wrestling. There's such a thing as basement wrestling, extreme basement wrestling. It's coming to Sportswire Radio. We have basement wrestling, so maybe that's the new wave. We're going to do basement wrestling. That's the wave.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. That kind of reminds me of my four younger cousins when I was in my mid teenage years. They were stepping stone
Mm-hmm.
youth. The house they lived in had a basement area with a bathroom that and that's where they went downstairs and wrestled. So it seems like it's coming back again. What was not advertised wasn't recorded because it's just little kids going downstairs and not disturbing their parents, and staying out of their hair. It seems like it's now becoming more mainstream or now more on camera than in the past. Because it's not that I'm not unfamiliar with something like that. That sounds exactly what my younger cousins would have done when I was babysitting them. That they would, in their mind, there was no camera. They weren't recording, but in their mind, they were repeating what they saw on, WCW or WWE at the time. So,
Yeah.
seeing that actually happening, that actually kind of, that makes me happy knowing that there's more of an art style is
Yeah,
coming.
they're like college kids. I spoke to them in a small world. They live on Long Island. I'm in New York City. We were kind of joking that we're both from an island.
Mhm.
They're in the other part. I'm from Brooklyn. They're from Long Island, which we're all on an island. And yeah, there they are in the basement, and they're going to be here on July 22nd. They're going to be here at about 8 o'clock or 8:30, and yeah, we're doing basement wrestling. So maybe that's the next. Maybe you'll get involved in basement wrestling. I mean, I didn't even know it was a thing, Mr. Hardcore, and then I stumbled upon this like a month ago at like 1:30 in the morning, and here we are.
No, wow, that kind of reminds me. Even like I said of my past, that reminds me. Yeah, no, I like the setup. I actually do like the setup. I
Yeah,
like what they've done.
I was watching it and it was like, wow. And then I looked up on Instagram. You'll never believe this. They were following me on Instagram, almost like with this young, beautiful lady, Abby, who said, "Oh, I've seen you on Instagram." And I was like, "Who are you?" And she was like, "No, I've seen you." And I'm like, "Well," I was almost ready to say, "Well, will you marry me on the spot?" I met her outside, but I didn't quite want to say that because then she would certainly want to say, "Well, I'm not talking to him again." But it was almost like the same with these guys. They're like, "I know who you are." I was like, "Oh, okay." And here we are. And yeah, that's that. And yeah, I mean, and Eddie Pizzo wants to say, yeah, they're from Long Island. I don't know what city, but they'll be here July 22nd. Eddie, this might be the thing to get Dooley back on the ground because we've got basement wrestling coming to Sportswire Radio. So they can't say there's been this whole thing over the past few months about trampoline wrestling. James Taylor, by the way, is here 8:00 on 8:00 Central Time Sunday, and I'm sure he'll have plenty to say as he always does. But you can't say they're trampoline wrestlers; they're basement wrestlers. So I don't know. They'll be here.
So I'm loving this actually. From what I'm saying, I'm actually loving this. The fact of the 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 level of creativity that they're going to basically show. Just I'm not because technically I can't hear it, so I'm not saying it's satire. I'm not saying, but what I'm saying is their dedication of creativity is there. That
I keep
technically
quiet
they
because
could.
copyright some of it. I
Right.
can't put
I,
music.
I think technically with this itself shows they could, if they literally take this seriously, that they truly take this seriously and they invest truly, they could make something huge
Well, I tell
of
you
this.
what, it's got me excited again. You know, I got them. There's a guy Maxwell Reeve that comes on here from BCW. I mean, he basically talks like CM Punk, and he comes on here. But so there is some excitement. And I think these guys again. I mean, they've literally got like a 1987 basement look set up. They've got the Chicago Blackhawks Ed Belfour poster on their basement. That's probably older than them. They've got the New York Giants a helmet which looks older than them, and yeah, they're going to be here and they're going to talk about their story. It'll be the 22nd at about 8:30, and yeah, these guys will be here, and maybe maybe you'll get involved in them. Maybe you'll be their manager. Who knows?
You know,
I'll put this on
at this,
Instagram. No, they're big
at
on
this,
Instagram. I'll put this on Instagram. I'll share you the clip when it's when I get the clip up. I'll DM you the clip, and I'm sure it'll
okay.
go.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm loving the creativity. I really am.
Exciting. You know,
It
I'm excited
really,
about
it's
it.
yeah, it's sparking up some really one fantastic memories of just babysitting my cousins, but at the same time, at the same time, they're taking it more steps more, and they're
Yeah.
trying to elevate it more, and that's probably what gets me more excited, is seeing that still love of progression of the art, that no matter where you decide to hold it at,
Yeah.
um, that they're still going to give that level of what you would actually see on television, which with NCWA, that's what we did. What you would have seen on TV, we would just try to uh, replicate that, but giving it our twist, giving it our creativity, giving it our personal flavor. And this is what they're doing. And I know that if Copper saw this, he would probably be just as excited as I
Well,
am
he
seeing
will
those
see
images.
because I sent him the link tonight, but I will on Instagram. I will certainly be posting a clip of this, and I'll DM you the link on Facebook because you're obviously we want to certainly keep you anonymous out there. But I will send you because the last clip they actually went out of their way last night when I was here with Sean Jovi, a man that was a comrade of yours in the GBYWN once upon a time, and they just put up the clip of us, me and him, Jovi, talking about this, and it got a lot of views. Actually, got a lot of likes, a lot of reactions. So I'll return the favor. I'll give them the receipt, and I'm sure it'll be the same way here coming up when they see this in a little while. So yeah, they're here
Yep.
July 22nd. I'll make sure you get to tune into that one. And
I will say they have the founding member of Default Stable number 24's attention.
they got a lot to say. I was speaking to the guys a little bit. We've actually been speaking about a month, but we haven't been able to get this right. But after last night, they just randomly popped up onto the chat on Sportswire with Sean Jovi. It got some interest. So they're here July 22nd at 8:30. And Eddie's got a couple of things to say about it. Deep down, a child keeps us from taking the risk we would take on our own. Yeah, that is
Yeah,
a good point. But the good news is I don't have any kids.
100%.
As far as I know, Mr. Hardcore, I don't have any children. So, I mean, I'll still be here on Sportswire. So the good news is that I'm still going to be here. I'm not retiring. I don't have any children. So at the moment, as far as I know. And I don't know what city, but I'll ask them. And also, yo, let me know. Yeah, let's definitely connect after this. I'll be off in about like 20 minutes. So yeah, definitely, maybe we'll connect. It's been a minute. Hope you're doing well. Yes, hello to Ox McCoy. Ox will definitely be here for that. And yeah, we'll figure that out. But yeah, if you want to follow the guys in EBW, check them out. They're Extreme Basement Wrestling, and they are taking basement wrestling to the extreme. Yeah, that's what they're doing. So we'll talk a lot more about them for sure coming up on July 22nd. So that's the guys, and we'll talk about them. But anything else that's on your mind you want to bring up here before I get to some closing thoughts? Anything else that you want to discuss? Anything else before I see it? We'll bring you back next month. It's yeah, I can't. I gotta bring you here next month because
Sure.
can't wait 9 months to talk to Mr. Hardcore. You're Mr. Hardcore. Now I get. I'm not doing my job if I don't have you. We're gonna see you here next month. I want you here once a month.
Well, what I will do is I'll let people know at home that those who have 2K25
Oh yeah,
video game,
yeah. That's
you can find a couple of versions of me.
now. How is this possible? How no? Because I haven't played this game. So how do we? How is
So
that possible?
you would go to the community creations, you go to the download, you go down to the hashtag, you go to custom, and you type in one word completely GWC intensity or BACW or MCWA.
So
It's
you play
only
2K, you play 2K25? Wow,
I do. I
wow.
do.
And you play as
100%.
yourself, I would imagine, right?
Hmm?
You play as yourself, I would imagine, right?
I have four different versions of me because of my career. So I have
Yes, true, true, true.
0607.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
have
yeah.
0607. I have 1314. I have 1819. Then I have my current, which is my general manager mode.
Yeah.
That one I will use in general manager mode. The others I have fun with, sure. They're not, you know, what I try to go with everything that needs to be filled out. So if I'm doing my faction, I'm going to do the live events and I'm going to use the cards that are needed. I'm not going to really worry about pulling me because you can't. Universe, I really don't bother much about.
Okay.
Not much, because work schedule and
Yeah, yeah,
life.
yeah.
When I can sit down and play, I will. But there's only two versions of me right now, and that's 0607 and 13 and 14. Um, for anyone out there who wants to download my character, they may. It is there for you to have fun with. But yeah, I do play the game when I can. But really, other than that, I just keep myself busy. I'm trying a new project, which, as your past guests of LA Guns, keep a backup. Yeah,
Backup.
nothing's published, nothing. But having fun trying to write a book or a couple
Oh,
of
that's
them.
interesting. Well, so what are you writing about your career in the backyard
No,
world?
it's just probably dark urban fantasy.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it is a token of my life. It is part of my life per se. It is a phase slash was a massive phase, which was live action role playing, and so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, basically, I'm taking memories of past games and writing a book of it, making it basically based off of what I did and experienced and had fun with. Uh, but that's just really just to pass the time, and nothing's published. I haven't even really looked to get it published or get a
Well,
literary
books
agent.
are hard thing.
Um,
Listen, my brother wrote a book, did a self-publish. It's out somewhere. My dad, so many times, I never forget growing up in Brooklyn, he really tried to write books. He would like get through it. He had this idea and he couldn't finish it. For whatever he would write and write and write and write. And he couldn't finish it. So to write a book, I mean that's a quite a thing there to do.
well, it's one of those you don't know when it's going to happen. I
Yeah.
mean, literally, you really don't. I kind of, like I said, I backed off from you know LARPing and role playing in general to do wrestling because I found that to be a better form, a higher form of entertainment, as well as the same thing that I was doing on the weekend, just no physical, you know, touch with other people. But
Yeah.
um, it was just something where I was like, okay, I'll start. I'll join a new game. I'll write a history about a character I'll play, and it just kept going, and it
Mhm.
just kept going, and it wouldn't stop. It just would not quit. And the next thing I know, I had 12 chapters and an epilogue. And I'm like, well,
Wow.
Correct. Okay. And so it's one of those where I'm like, okay, I haven't done anything with it. I haven't gone and gotten it published. Like I said, I haven't even looked to see how to get a literary agent to get it published.
Yeah, it's a hard.
But
Like I said, my brother did it, but it was like, published a book. You can do it, online, but like you have to get people to buy the book. You like if you're like that's
right,
the. My dad had like I remember he had like three or four, and it was like they were good, like the kind of things that somebody would have bought, but it was just to finish, to sit there and do the finish. I mean, I know you're trying to pull off the Mick Foley here and become a bestseller. I think you could do it. You are Mr. Hardcore. He was a hardcore legend turned hardcore author. You could certainly do the same thing, but I hope you pull it off. I really do. I hope you pull it off because then I'll have a
well,
hardcore author in the Hall of Fame. I'll need
well, I guess I really see it as just something to keep me occupied. But when there's nothing going on, and there's nothing invested in
well, that's a
it,
lot of time to write. Like I said, to write a book.
yeah,
That's
and I can
I,
write only when I can. On lunch break or before I go to work or right after I got off of work or for the night, which could end up me staying up till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning,
yeah. You're in TV.
depending on the. It really depends on the pace in which my mind,
Yeah.
unleashes the creativity. Sometimes it's a slow night. Sometimes I can't even get a damn paragraph out, and I'm just like, okay, fine.
That's
I can,
writer's block, but listen, you could
that's
have
part of it.
something come out for a couple days and all of a sudden write like 50 pages in a day,
Right.
just
And that's why it's like, hey, if that happens, if you stall, if you get stuck, don't worry. It's your brain saying, stop, take a break. It'll come to you, but don't concentrate on it too much because if you do, it'll never come.
yeah,
Let it
that's
come.
common. But I hope you do it. I hope by the time you come back here next month, you'll have written some pages, you'll have a title, you'll have an agent, and you'll become we'll put you in the Hall of Fame a second time for being an author. No, I
We'll
mean,
see what happens.
we got
But
this guy
hey, fingers
Justin
crossed.
Parsley. He's in the Hall of Fame 8 times. There's Anthony Steele who's in it a bunch of times. So I mean, why not you? I mean, so listen. I think before we get to closing thoughts, the book. I think that would be interesting. I will buy a copy. I think that would be interesting. I hope you. Like I said, I really hope that you go out and write a book because, like I said, I remember my dad. He always was a writer. He wrote music and he was trying to write these books, and he would get close and then couldn't finish it, couldn't
Yep.
couldn't finish the
I'm
job.
technically in the series. I'm actually technically working on book 2. I'm currently in chapter 3.
Okay.
Since I LARPed vampire, it's basically
But you're
that.
putting out two. You would like to put out 2 books at once.
I'm technically just writing to write, and however many come out is however many come out.
But you want to get it published, though, obviously, right?
I mean, I think in a way, at some point, sure. There's no real rush, I guess, in a way, because
Okay.
how difficult it can be.
Yeah, it's
And
very difficult.
if you take your time, you might have a better shot of actually finding a pathway to getting
Yeah,
a
I mean,
guest. But
listen, I've had, some of these bands come on. LA Guns puts out an album every 2 years. It's like they just flow. But then I've had some other bands come on here, and they haven't put out music, and I had Zebra. They're putting out their first music in 22 years. I mean, I've had the band Great White. They haven't put out music in close to a decade. I mean, so some of these bands, same in music. Some of these bands put out records like they change laundry. Others they wait until decades from now. So it's it all depends.
right,
There's a lot of things that go into it. How many people buy something, and what's the time you're out there, and cost analysis. So, well, look, I hope you do it. I know you're going to do it. I look forward to reading it. I look forward to seeing you back here. We had a lot of fun tonight. I look
I did
forward.
too. I had a
Yeah, it was
blast.
good. It was good. It was good. It was definitely much needed to have you here. And if you want to follow the GWC Intensity on YouTube and Facebook, they're on Facebook. It is still up and running. They've actually shared the last time you were coming on here, but we'll give them a bone because your YouTube channel is this, and they've got 8,000 plus subscribers. Yeah, not too many backyard feds have that number. Let's just put it that way. I mean, there's ESW, and there's one company that used to come on here that had that many subscribers, but things certainly what they were. I'm going to leave that at that. But the GWC still lives on through YouTube. You can watch some of the content we showed here, and we will continue to honor that, and we will continue to honor Mr. Hardcore. And we look forward to seeing what he has to say next month on here. And until then, I pass the baton to you, sir. I give you some closing thoughts, and anything else you want to plug, share, or say, the floor is yours.
I just want to tell everyone thank you so much for attending. Thank you for being part of the show. Thank you, Tom, for having me. I always love coming on your show. And technically, you have nothing to worry about. You can always call on me, and I will always show up, and I will always be there, no matter the case, no matter the
I
situation.
think this
I
was a
will
good.
always
I
be
think
there
this was
for
good.
you.
We had a good conversation a few weeks back. You were obviously, you and I were talking about some things. It was a good time to have you back. I think that this was good. I think we had some fun for July 4th, and I look forward to what's next. And I also want to say thank you for all that you've done, though, for our sport. Thank you for just the legacy that you've left in the backyard circuit. And I think that you're far from done. And I know this is going to be a great accomplishment, great award. And thank you. And you just got a subscriber from Mr. Eddie. Eddie gave GWC a subscription, and I haven't seen Eddie in like 5 months because we had actually, one of the things that we had on since you were last minute was promo wrestling, and which I mean. I'm all wrestling matters, so I support it. Some guys on here I don't think took as much to it as I did, but Eddie was one of the guys that was here a lot for it. I know they were trying to work on some different things, but that was the last I saw Eddie here was about 4 or 5 months ago. Last time I did promo wrestling. Promo wrestling. I'm sure you know promo wrestling. Guys come on
Mhm.
and they do a battle and a duel, and Eddie's dually, but we'll I'm sure talk more with Eddie, but he did give a subscription to GWC, so we appreciate that. We appreciate Eddie, and he's been a good friend, and always love seeing him, and love seeing you just as much. Thank you for everything. Thank you for giving us a nice. Like I said, my last 2 hours was great. My whole day today was like. I was sluggish, lethargic. Then all of a sudden, the fireworks come on. Girl next door, you say we're ready to come on, and the light bulbs come on. We're in prime time.
There you go. I
That's
mean,
that way. But
you keep doing what you're doing.
yeah.
I want to see great interviews. You keep giving them, and I want to
The
keep
bands, I'm
seeing
getting
them.
them with the bands. The bands, I'm getting the mainstream exposure. We have to see, well, I think the basement wrestling will be fun. James Taylor.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
James Taylor is here Sunday. He won't
Okay.
disappoint. He's here.
No, he won't.
Anthony Steele was here last week. Who was, at first he was humble Anthony, then he turned into the usual Anthony. Anthony's Anthony. I'm sure you know him. So you'll get your usuals. But James Taylor is here Sunday night. Saturday, tomorrow I have Putty, I think his name is. We'll see how it goes. But
Okay.
yeah, we'll just say, let's see how it goes. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This is Mr. Hardcore, of course, from the legendary GWC Intensity and, of course, the Global Backyard Wrestling Network. And he is the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. Maybe if Eddie's here over the weekend, I'll have to put Eddie in the Hall of Fame because I owe Eddie a lot. But until then, thank you, everybody. Hit the sub button for us. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice, figuratively and literally, with all music and wrestling matters. And we'll be here around 9 o'clock tomorrow. So be there for that. But until then, if you're here, wherever you are in the rest of the country, enjoy the fireworks, enjoy the evening, and Abby, hello, and everybody else, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio, where all music and wrestling matters. Thank you so much. Happy July 4th.